Meeting. Tonight we have two public hearings that have both been continued from previous hearings. The first matter is the definitive subdivision, which is 61 Bigelow Street / 160.1 Swan Street. The public hearing will be held regarding the applicant regarding the Swan Street Development Company, LLC, for approval of a definitive subdivision plan of 16,460 square foot property located at the above address and 72,628 square feet of parcel located on Bigelow Street and Industrial Ave East, called 160.1 Swan Street. The proposal includes two new residential lots totaling 14,690 square feet and one new vacant lot totaling 1.4 acres to house stormwater infrastructure. The lots would be accessed via a new 180-foot roadway to be built off Bigelow Street. The site is located in the traditional single-family and the high-rise commercial zoning districts. As indicated, this was continued from our last meeting, and actually it was on prior to that, so this is the second continuation. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Plunkett, 151 Warren Street in Lowell, representing the applicant Swan Street Development, LLC. Mr. Chairman, as stated, this is a subdivision resulting in a net increase of one residential house lot over the house lot that already is in existence on a portion of the land which will make up this subdivision. After the last meeting, the expectation was that there were certain items to go over with the city engineer, and that has been done. Plans have been prepared. They have been submitted to you. There was a meeting this afternoon with Lisa DeMayo. I was present for only a short portion of it, but the engineer, Mr. Close, and Mr. Mainville, representing Swan Street Development, LLC, met with Ms. DeMayo and went over all the matters, and I believe that there was going to be something emailed or a phone call to Mr. Clausen from Ms. DeMayo saying that everything had been satisfied. Basically, the only changes that would come about as a result of the discussion today is that they will, at the request of Ms. DeMayo, reverse the order of the bump out and driveway on the house lot on the left-hand side of the subdivision street, so that the driveway is closer to the Bigelow Street configuration of the parcel. The only other thing was that they would align the handicap ramps closely opposite each other, rather than there being a differential in terms of where it's located in each side. But those were certainly minor changes that could be made to the plans and have been agreed upon. But all the other terms and conditions that were in Ms. DeMayo's letter on behalf of the engineering department were addressed and discussed, and I believe to the satisfaction of everyone involved. In a nutshell, this is a net one gain in homes as a part of this immediate subdivision with the residential use on the plan as shown. There are no waivers, no variances. Will be fully 100% in compliance with the ordinances set forth in the applicable city ordinance. And, Mr. Chairman, I just we're here to answer any questions that you may have for us.
Thank you. Does anyone else, does anybody want to speak in favor of the project? Anyone in favor? In favor? Hearing none, anyone want to speak in opposition? In opposition? Yes, sir. Just come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I got drafted. I'm Ken Harkins. I live at 110 Bigelow Street, and tonight, you're lucky, I didn't bring my folder with me. I just got out of work when I found out this was going to happen. But the question I have, I guess, that in talking to the other neighbors is, supposedly they've taken care of the sewer issue. Have you?
You can ask the questions to us and we'll address them. There was a recommendation last time at the last meeting on what they had to do for their sewer line to go into that site.
Okay. And the second thing is, when he was trying to do the building before, he annexed about 2,500 some land off of 63 Bigelow Street and stuck it into the commercial part so he could, because he was going to have it transferred, try to get us to vote to approve it into a traditional single family. Has that land been restored back into the traditional single family, or is it still sitting over there in the commercial side and he's going to utilize it?
Most of the property is in the single family. He has very little bit in the very rear of the house lots, which is the
I guess my question, sir, is when he was going to do it before,
Right.
from 63 Bigelow Street, he grabbed some land and stuck it into the commercial
Oh, that I know.
because he was going to have it, try to get it rezoned into
The
traditional
single
single
family,
family.
right.
I just want to know if that's been brought back in, or is it out there in the commercial end of it? If it's in the commercial end of it, he's might want to look at the house he's going to be building back in there and see if he's going to have the right inches or feet, whatever, yards.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I want to make sure that this temporary road he's putting in there for a turnaround is removed and is restored to the condition it is now. Therefore, that way there can be no mistake in the fact that he's unable to use residential land to get into commercial land. He'll understand that. He won't be able to come back and say, well, I got my road there, so now I need to go this way or that way. I think that's only fair that he should put that in writing to us. And not having my notes with me, I guess that's all I can say, but I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? I know Mr. Miller's here, he spoke last time, and I know Mr. Harkins was here before at the first meeting, he spoke in opposition as well. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. I think I have a question first. You indicated that you met with the city engineer today?
Yes, there was a meeting this afternoon at the city engineer's office.
We had a letter dated to us on March 2nd from the city engineer, and she had items that have not been resolved yet.
Right.
Have you agreed to all those items, or?
Yes, everything was taken care of, and I don't know if the indication from Ms. DeMayo was that she would try to get something over to Mr. Clausen, indicating that, no.
Okay, so the concerns that she had was the location of the dewatering and discharges to be shown on the plans,
They've been shown on the plan,
erosion control to be shown on the plans,
correct.
the catch areas pre- and post-construction must be shown,
That's all done.
and she also indicated that you need the permit for the NPDES. I know
If,
last time Mr. Close didn't think there was enough on acre disturbance. I know the advertisement said it's 1.4 acres in that lot, and I know that she's mentioned it twice. So was that issue resolved?
that issue was resolved in terms of there was certification as part of all the calculations and part of the operations and maintenance plan that was submitted, specifying that it's 0.87 acres, I think, 0.87 acres of disturbance. Ms. DeMayo did indicate that if there were something done further in the future in that area, that it's not a, you can't escape this 1 acre by doing it in sections, which is understandable and fully acceptable, and, it's understood, that part is understood, but this proposal here today, this subdivision today, does not trigger that because it does not go into the 1 acre of disturbance.
And then she had some concerns about the chamber is shown with approximate 7-inch rise, and she thought this was excessive.
There was a discussion on that, and the explanation was in regards to the actual final plans that were showing that it was all in compliance with her expectation of what it should be. I think there was some plan that she had looked at that wasn't drawn to scale. The plans that were submitted today does have a provision that shows the actual scale for the build-out, and she was in agreement with that.
Yeah, because it just indicated that she thought that the chamber was excessive, and there was no way to install the chamber in the location shown, because the depth depicted was
Right, that's because...
not impacted the right-of-way, and the 7 inches maintenance would be difficult to clean.
That was because the detail that she was looking at a detailed plan without the scale drawn in there. So it was somewhat skewed in terms of what the actual proposal is. That was gone over in detail with the reference to the actual scale detail of that plan, and it was shown that it is in compliance with what you would expect.
And the last one was the acceptable operation and maintenance plans to be submitted?
That's all part and parcel of the submittal that was made to her.
Could you answer the question that Mr. Harkins had about that piece of land? You know what he was referring to?
Yes, I think this is, again, the question that came up last time, and it would be the same response in terms of there is a 1.4 acre parcel of land there that is zoned what it is zoned. There was no change. There was a proposal from a year or a year and a half ago that was not approved, and therefore the property retained its zoning that it was at that time, which it retains today. The reality is that because of that zoning, nothing could be done to this parcel without further determination of a proposal, a specific proposal, and coming before the board with whatever, probably special permits, everything else that would be involved if there was something to come forward on that site. Bottom line is, there is no proposal right now. There is land there. Yes, there is land, and it is zoned as it's zoned, but nothing can be done without approval, further approval of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any board members have any questions, comments? Oh, yes, sir.
I have one question. They keep talking about the homeowners association going to be responsible for the street. I thought we were building houses people were going to buy instead of building condos. Homeowner association goes with a condo or something along that line. It's my understanding of the real estate. Maybe I don't understand real estate and I sell it. I don't know, but maybe Mr. Plunkett can explain how we're selling a house and it's going to have a homeowners association, which is usually tied to a condo or something. And I guess that property must have reverted back to 63 Bigelow Street that was annexed, moved before?
What I understand is the detention area that they're putting in the back, the people on the new houses that's being built will be responsible to maintain that. And that's where the appropriate maintenance plan and operations have to be approved. So whoever buys that property is going to be aware that they're responsible to maintaining that detention area. Is that correct, Mr. Plunkett?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. This is not a condominium. This will be individual, single-family home ownership.
Okay, thank you. All right, any of the board members have questions? No. Go ahead, Mr. Lockhart.
Regarding the homeowners association trust document, did we hear from the legal department on that? They were going to comment.
We haven't received formal comments from the solicitor's office as of yet on that document.
Okay. The sewerage issue, I know the last time, I don't think the gentleman is here tonight.
Yeah, he's here, Ms. Nichols. Yep, he's right there.
Oh,
There he is.
okay. All right, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I think you had indicated that there were gonna be, a camera was gonna go into the pipes to see what was there, and they couldn't get the camera through at one time, but the following day, they were gonna go over and try to clean it out. Has there been any, feedback on anything? Or any progress in that area?
They went back, they ran the roto-rooter machine through and were able, I guess, to clean out the roots that were in the main trunk there.
Okay,
That's Mr. Miller, right, okay.
so that, okay, that was on that. One other question. Regarding the trees in that lot, there are a lot of large caliper trees. I'm wondering if there's a strategy in place to, leave certain trees
We,
and replant where appropriate, and will you work with the DPD on?
yeah, we'll be more than willing to work with the DPW on that. I believe that there has been a comment placed on one of the plans indicating that the applicant will work with the DPW to address any issues pertaining to, mature tree growth on site that may be disturbed as part of the build-out. So that is agreeable. That's not a problem.
That's fine, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other gentlemen have any questions? Mr. Genman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to be the first one to invoke the Mullen Rule here on our
Right.
board. I was able to view the video, although it wasn't as easy as you might think, because for some reason, the January 20th meeting, which is the initial meeting for this hearing, is the only meeting that's not posted on the LTC website. So I had to go to the library and get the video, but no big deal. Aaron, I'm wondering, has any other board member invoked the Mullen Rule yet, or am I?
You are the first.
Oh, wow, I'm
Citywide.
honored. I'm honored. This is history tonight. I did have a couple of questions. You all look good on the video, by the way. Aaron raised a good question, I think, in his most recent comments regarding the irregular shape of the lots. Both lots have an irregular shape. Actually, before I touch on that, I did want to comment on Mr. Harkins' point. Just so you're not confused, Mr. Harkins, the portion of these house lots, as I understand it, that are going into, will be commercially zoned, will always be commercially zoned. But they'll also be part of those house lots. So while they'll have a commercial zone, they won't be usable, they won't be buildable as in a residential way, and they also won't be usable along with the rest of the commercial land that remains, if that makes sense. I think I'm right about that. In the homeowners association, it doesn't have to be just a condo, right? It can be any group of homeowners that have land in common that need an agreement to govern how that land is going to be maintained in the future. So those are the things that I think that it may answer your question. But back to the irregular shaped lots, that does cause, as Aaron points out, these long slivers of land should be discouraged, as the narrower slivers of lots are not likely to be much use in the future to the property owner, and the confusing layout may be a source of property disputes in the future. It's just a means for you to get the land requirement. So you kind of hang this long strip of land off the back of the lot to maintain the land requirement and not have to go for any variance. And there's nothing illegal about that, but or nothing that violates the zoning code about that. But it seems to me that could be resolved with a little bit of different lining of the lots. And I wonder if you might be open to maybe creating some diagonal lot lines to butt up against this turnaround that might gain you the land you need to avoid having to get variances, but also alleviate the irregular-sized lots?
I think that there had been a change in the alignment already in terms of one that was actually a triangular type of configuration, and it was made to be more of a symmetrical, squared-off configuration. The lot on the left-hand side of the new subdivision, actually that so-called arm or strip is actually 25 feet in width. So it's not an insignificant, portion of the, of the lot. And in looking at it, it was actually, the thought was that that was something that really shouldn't cause too much concern in the sense that it's a fairly good piece of land. The lot on the right, there was a change made to that in which it had come out as a more, like I say, more of a triangular type of configuration, and there was a change made to make it more of a symmetrical squared-off lot, and that was, still trying to make certain that we wouldn't have any type of need for variance or, wanted to be fully in comportment with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. So I don't know, anything specific other than there was a change, there was an attempt
From
to
the
try to
original
make it
plan.
more symmetrical, yeah.
Aaron, did you have suggestions, or the planning department have suggestions as how those situations might be remedied?
Yeah, I think the simplest way to deal with it, and the parcel that jumps out as a concern is the one on the, as you're turning into the proposed street on the right, the direction of, I think that's
Yeah.
on the north side of the street. There's a sliver of land that's approximately 5 feet wide and, 100 feet long. And so the simple way to deal with that is just, as you said, take it diagonally, perpendicular to the proposed street, take it diagonal to the cul-de-sac, so that you don't have a sliver of land that's not really usable. It's really meeting, it's like, as you said, it's meeting the yard requirement. And down the line, as presuming that there will be new development beyond what's proposed here, there's the potential for, conflicts. So when we're looking at lotting out land, we'd like to see it as symmetrical as possible. Of course, you can't always get that. Particularly constrained in the city of Lowell with the existing parcels that we have to subdivide. But where we can, we like to keep it as symmetrical as possible. I should point out on both of these parcels, though, that we did look at the zoning compliance for usable open space and yard setbacks and that sort of thing. They both did meet that, even with the sliver of land that's kind of coming off the side there. But yeah, the easiest way to do is just take the line, instead of perpendicular to street, diagonal, and get
Sure.
the square footage that way.
Is that something you'd be open to, Mr. Plunkett, is changing that lot line so that it's more symmetrical?
Yeah, is there a possibility that we, I'm
Well, maybe,
talking
maybe,
to
maybe,
the abstract, it's,
maybe a condition could be to work with the planning department to
I think that-
adopt lot lines that provide greater symmetry, and not have the unusable portions of land.
and still be fully compliant with frontage, square
yes.
footage, and everything else.
Right.
So- Well, we're not going to take away from the frontage of the, so the frontage of the cul-de-sac will remain the same? Is that what the suggestion is?
I think it would have to take away from frontage on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, yes, essentially because the from the back corner, that's roughly 80 feet off of the new roadway. If you're taking that diagonal to the cul-de-sac, you're going to extend the frontage of the proposed lot. It's going to be a wider lot, and the frontage along the cul-de-sac would be reduced. I don't know exactly how much. I haven't calculated it out or sketched out options, but it would reduce the amount of frontage that the cul-de-sac has on the undeveloped parcel.
Or would that result in an extension of the length of the cul-de-sac?
I wouldn't think it would need to, no.
I think that would help a lot, and that lot in particular, that 5-foot strip of land. The other one, I see what you're saying, at 25 feet, maybe there could be some usable purpose for that, and it's less likely to be, the product of the point of contention. But the one with the 5 feet by 100, that's just this long strip of land there, it's gonna be unusable and cause problems in the future. So if that's, I think that would be an appropriate condition to try to cut that corner, providing the land you need to meet your variances, but still providing a more symmetrical lot, so that makes more sense.
And it would keep intact all the other calculations and determinations in terms of length and location of the, that it's not going to have to re-engineer the entire site. I think that if that's the caveat, then certainly that's something that they'd be willing to work with DPW on that.
So to that point, the remainder of the site, is your intention to, at some point, have that be residential?
That's a possibility. Certainly that another request could come forward, but, there's a time limitation. At the time, presently, there is no definitive plan for the land. The thought is that the request had come before this board previously, and there was actually support for that, but it did not go past the hurdle of the hearing before this, the city council. I think there's a year and a half or a year to go before that could be brought up again, but I think the mindset is that would be a more appropriate use for this land. Mm-hmm. But, that's something that would certainly not be a right, because that isn't how it is zoned. And nothing could be done along those lines unless there was agreement and approval and the process that's involved with that, which would then lead to another process subsequent to that, if in fact that was able to be agreed upon. Mm-hmm. So I guess the final response would be that there is 1.4 acres there, that there will be the intent to do something with it. And, certainly they would, the hope would work with the city to try to make the best use of that land. And certainly nothing can be done unless there were changes, and unless there was then new submittal, and unless there were the hearing process and approvals and everything else that's part and parcel of that process.
Right. So I remember when you came before us regarding the zoning change, and I think it was a unanimous support for that zoning change, although we debated it heavily because of the effect on the neighborhood. Sure. But we recommended the change because we felt that a residential development there would be the best option for the neighborhood, as opposed to a high-rise development there with access on Bigelow Street. To me, that is the biggest concern that I have. I mean, the lot sizes, the lot shapes are not great. The split zoning, as Mr. Frechette brought up in the original meeting that I watched on DVD, is not something that I support or think is a good idea, because that can cause issues down the line. But the access from Bigelow Street to a high-rise zone district is what really sours this in my mind. If I knew that it was going to be residentially zoned, then I'd have no problem supporting it with the conditions we've talked about. But the fact that there could be a high-rise development there, I feel really, really damages the character of this neighborhood, and just the access there threatens the character of the neighborhood. So, it's a very, very difficult thing to consider when you're, when I think, one of the primary overall goals that we have as a planning board is to protect our neighborhoods. I think places where it's comfortable to live in Lowell are dwindling, and we need to protect those places, and Bigelow Street is one of them. You drive up there and you see nice, cared-for houses. It's a comfortable street, quiet. Yes, there's always been that industrial zone back there, but there's been a buffer. there's no way to access that industrial zone from Bigelow Street, so it still makes it a nice place to live. But as soon as you put that access road in there, now we could have a high-rise development there. And yes, I know any development would have to come before the planning board before it could be approved. But when something comes here for site plan approval in a high-rise zoned district, we're limited in what we can do legally, you know? So I have a lot of misgivings about this, the site for that reason. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Fischett, any questions, comments? None? Mr. Claremont?
Yeah, just briefly, I think, you know, we've gone over this 3 different meetings, and much of the questions have been resolved, but there was one that I'm not sure it has been resolved. There was a conflict with the driveway at 73 Bigelow Street, potential vehicular conflicts raised by the city transportation engineer. Has anything further been done on that?
The plans as submitted to show as part of what would be approved, showing the driveway cuts would be to realign the driveway for that 73 Bigelow Street to come off of the new roadway. So it would be the obligation of the developer to comply with the provisions that have been presented to address that issue.
All right, and fair to say then, I have no issues with the remaining items on the memos from the city engineer of January 26th and the newer memo of March 2nd, 2011.
Correct.
Those are all
There was the meeting this afternoon with Lisa DeMayo, the city engineer.
Okay. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
I have no questions at this time as well.
Mr. Chairman, could I just have a chance just to make certain that I do emphasize the point, you know, in regards to Mr. Gendron's question, in the sense that, you know, it is, nothing can be done in a commercial manner on that site unless there was a significant process. But it is the hope of the owner of that property to work with the city, again, to try to determine the best use of that land. And the applicant's feeling is that the best use of that land would be residential in nature. So I just wanted to emphasize that, that point.
Any further discussion from board members? If not, we can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve with conditions, and the conditions I'd suggest, one is that the applicant work with DPD to make the lot more symmetrical if possible. Two, that the applicant comply with the conditions raised in the memos from the city engineer dated January 26, 2011, and March 2nd, 2011. A third would be approval of the homeowner's trust by the city solicitor. And fourth would be working with the DPD to develop a strategy to identify the trees to be preserved and those to be planted. And I don't know if any of my colleagues have any additional suggestions, but those are the 4 that I have.
Did the motion made any discussion, or?
I'll second the motion. Just a clarification. Did you mention the city engineer's comments?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay, because we really haven't officially heard from her.
He mentioned the March 2nd one, and he also mentioned the
Okay,
previous
I'm
January
sorry.
one. Yeah, right.
But I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering if we could be a little bit more specific about the symmetrical lot condition.
Work with DPD.
Maybe suggest that the lot in question is Lot 2, and that we request the applicant to reroute the lot line such that the 5-foot strip of land off the back of the lot is eliminated.
That would be fine, Mr. Chairman. As far as the motion is concerned, I'd adopt that as a condition as well.
Okay. So that would be to work with the lot lines is to wipe out that last parcel, which would be the 5-foot heading east and west. Okay, so the motion's been made and second with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conditions. Aaron, any question on the conditions?
I actually only have 4 conditions.
Oh, okay,
I
I
have
think I have
the-
4, but I think the lot line one was complicated. Well, it doubled, I think.
Okay, yes. Yep.
Because one was DPD, and then the other was to work with DPD, and then also, it also came in to refer to what Mr. Genman said. So I
Okay,
add that
separate
as a fifth
conditions. Okay, I gotcha. All right.
one. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I might also add that we ask the applicant to explore preserving trees in the lot. Was that on there? Okay, sorry, I missed that.
Okay, no, Joe had that. He had that under Aaron's comments, okay? So any further discussion? If not, we have a motion made and second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Chair votes yes. Any opposition?
No.
Mr. Chairman, just, could I have clarification on that? We work with the DPW, but it is considered that as part of the discussion that wouldn't alter or change anything in terms of not requiring any further variances or, extension of the cul-de-sac or changing of the
Right, we're not
detention
looking to seek
area.
any variances, but I believe the condition would be to work with the DPD to make the lot more symmetrical, and we're referring to Lot 2 is shown on the plan to eliminate the 5-foot strip and add that to the lot in some other fashion to make it more symmetrical. We're not looking for you to be required to get any variances anywhere. Thank you.
So the motion carries. The site plan is approved with conditions. Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't believe I get in here running close as not here. Oh, wow. Not believe everything. Moving along, next matter is a site plan review, and this matter was continued from the previous meeting as well. This is 1100 Gorham Street. This is the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Test and Bill, Inc. for site plan review for a project located at 1088-1100 Gorham Street. The proposal includes a partial demolition and interior renovations of 42,000 square foot building with associated parking and landscaping changes. 3 additions on the southerly side of the building will be demolished, and interior renovation will update old and create new retail space in front of the building and new wholesale industrial space in the rear of the building. 2 loading docks off Weinbeck Street and 36 new parking spaces will be added. The applicant is seeking a site plan review under section 11.4. The parcel is located in traditional mixed-use zoning district. It covers 62,120 square feet. We had the public hearing at the last meeting. At that time, we had a motion to continue to explore further requests from city departments at this time, and to get updated plans as well, and to get more feedback from other departments. At this point in time, may we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. George Theolides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I guess if I can, I'd first like to bring these up for... As I just said, my colored copy machine isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but I think it at least gives you an idea of what it looks like. As the chairman said, we agreed that we ought to get back and review a bunch of these things and see what we could do to figure out what, if any, ways we could deal with some possibilities of shall we say, fine-tuning the plan a little bit more. I think Aaron put together a great summary by way of his memorandum dated the 2nd, I think it is. I've not only lost my I'm not only hard of hearing, I'm now hard of sight, so, and I forgot my glasses, so I may have to hold these out a little further than normal. But anyway, I think it's fair to say, and I'm not trying to take any thunder, shall we say, away, but before we get into, shall we say, the nitty-gritty of whatever's there, I want to go back for a second, if I can, and just explain. I don't think I've ever come before the board before and said at a first meeting where maybe there was some, and it wasn't a first meeting, we had an informal, but at a first meeting where there still were maybe some issues that were a little cloudy at the time, that I ever indicated I would really anxiously look and need a vote. But as you all understand, in the realm of real estate law and sales, et cetera, time constraints are really big deals. My client is under an incredible time constraint situation, and we did get a limited extension from the seller, who, by the way, I asked to come here tonight in case there were any other questions or about that situation, but he may also be able to explain a couple of things that we may be discussing a little later on. So in a sense, I say that by way of an apology to the board. I certainly didn't intend to do anything other than what was in my client's best interest by trying to keep this thing moving. And I think Aaron and the DPD folks will tell you that there's probably been no one who's responded as fast. I don't think an email goes out to Mr. Patel from Aaron that he doesn't get a response within 5 minutes or darn close to it. So it's not that we've been dilatory in every fashion, because he's quite anxious to get to where hopefully we need to be. So if I can just, I'm going to take the liberty of just commenting on numerically from Aaron's memorandum the things that I think need to be elaborated on a little bit more, and if the board or Aaron wants to elaborate or question some more on any of the other items, obviously we'll be glad to deal with them. So on Aaron's memo, item number 1, well, I'll just put it that way, obviously we have no problem with that. Number 2 relates to parking spaces 49 and 50. The map up there, the plan up there. On your plan, I think you have the smaller version, if I'm not mistaken, that my client submitted. They're the last 2 parking spaces on the right-hand side. And that's an area that is probably the most necessary to be dealt with, and we cannot easily deal with it except to say this is what we intend to work feverishly with the city and the city engineers and everybody, the DPD more than anybody else to begin with, to accommodate my client in 2 respects. Number 1 is to maybe afford us some more turnaround area across from the spaces that go from 50 down to, and I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but I'm going to call them adjacent to the basketball courts at the school location, so that we can get some bigger trucks in there if we need to and do a turnaround. If not, then we'll agree that only a limited size truck can go in there. Secondly, the city engineer, as I think you noticed, so I'm sort of piggybacking on what Aaron has pointed out there about the issues at 49 and 50. The city engineer has indicated that there is no access around those areas and to the rear of the property. And I alluded to that issue in my presentation the last time because my client was told by the seller, the gentleman who's here tonight, and he will confirm this to you if you wish at any point, that when they were doing the plans for the school, he came and objected to some of the portions of what was being done there, and he was assured that he would have a turnaround area and access without any problems in that area in the back. Now, I said to him, that sounds good and whatever, but unfortunately assured doesn't mean anything unless, as the lawyers know, it's in concrete and on record at the registry, and I have not determined that from a title examination myself, but certainly the property is owned by the city, and if it's owned by the city, actually, let me just, without getting too complicated here, I think there was an issue of somebody thought, well, maybe by virtue of the fact, as Mr. Phipps would tell you, he's been using it for 20 or 25 years that way, you know, the concept of adverse possession, I don't even want to come close to talking about that, but the concept of adverse possession doesn't work against a municipality or any government organization. So that isn't even an issue. We could have used it for 50 years, and that isn't an issue. What we need is we need to work out a deal with the city to be able to just push the street back a little further and get into that area. And so I guess while I'm talking about that, I want to also just hit the concept of, I gave you those pictures, and hopefully they're good enough to get, and I'm sure you've all been up there too, but that area is a no man's land, especially the area beyond the what I'll call the entryway to the school, entry-exit way to the, everything behind that's an area, it's a no man's land. It's of absolutely no use to anybody else in the world, except in this case, to my clients, certainly for access and egress. We are willing to do whatever is necessary reasonably to assist the city in dealing with that area in the back. We would hope that the city, since there'll be a lot of taxes to pay on this property, we would hope that the city would assist and help us extend or finish off Weinbeck Street the way it should be, so that there'll be a good completion to that area. So that's in our plan, and if we can't do that, then I think it's fair to say my client probably wouldn't go any further with the project at that point, because it doesn't make any sense for anybody if there's not a proper accommodation with regard to all of those things. So, that said, we'll agree to a condition. I would actually, I think it might even be helpful to us. I mean, this is something we have to work together for. That's what the city and the Department of Planning and Development are for, to work with developers and vice versa, so that there can be accommodations made, so that in this case we can rehab a building that desperately needs rehabbing, and at the same time help to create some new jobs, et cetera. So I would hope, and I have every reason in the world, because I'm going to be positive about it, that we could come to whatever is necessary to be able to accomplish that. I also want to say that, and my good friend Aaron corrected me on my measurements. I said at the last meeting that I thought the sidewalk was about 30 inches. I was taking a guess just on a visual. Aaron must have gone out with a tape measure and got me at 42 inches. So I was off 12 inches. I apologize for that. But if you look at those pictures, number one, 42-inch sidewalk is doing nothing for a bunch of kids walking along a street. And number two, if you look at that, it's not plowed by the city. It's not taken care of by anyone. And the kids, there's nowhere for those kids to walk. You can see that. There's a terminus of snow on both ends. You can't even get around the corner on the school side. So I would say that I'm trying to be positive now. I think that my client's project is going to be hopefully a catalyst for dealing with an issue like that. And maybe, you know, there's no other use for Weinbeck Street. There's no other traffic for Weinbeck Street except for the exodus from the school and what my client may do for it. Maybe, for example, as we did in Bishop Street when we talked about the 3 houses that were going up there and that there was no other use and no other need, maybe Weinbeck Street should be re-engineered to make it a little smaller and sidewalks can go up for the kids once and for all. We'd certainly love to see that. So, now that I'll get down off my advocacy pedestal on that and go on to the next item here. With regard to item number 9, and that speaks to again, that's a condition. And by the way, what I said about the street and dealing with the parking in the area and whatever, I would anticipate that would be a condition of any approval. As far as number 11 is concerned, my client has made adjustments on there. I think they're satisfactory. That's the impression with regard to the handicap situation. He made them the proper distance and put some space in between them. With regard to number 12, the updated plans, you know, we're, like I said, we will put in whatever size truck is properly accommodates the space that's given once Weinbeck Street is dealt with. And obviously, we're not going to try to put in, well, first of all, we indicated we weren't putting in 18-wheelers to begin with, but we're not even going to try to unless some accommodation could be made in that area to do that. With regard to 14, we'll do all of the paving as needed. And you can make that a condition as well and work with the city as far as any of that stuff there. So that's kind of my commentary as far as Aaron's things go. And then on the city engineers thing, comments, I think the first bullet we already said, we understand that there's a moratorium and you can't open the street, and we don't believe there's any necessity for it. We're not going to change any of those things. The second bullet, I think I've spoken to that issue, except I guess I can say there aren't really excessive curb cuts because, as you well know, going up there and seeing it, there are no curb cuts. Now, on Gorham Street, I think we've done a great benefit by cutting down to basically 2 smaller spaces and not having that wide open area from Weinbeck all the way to the north side that's wide open right now and just an invitation for problems. There is no access to the storage area. Well, that gets back to what I said before. And you know, I certainly think it would not be unreasonable, and I think it's appropriate that if when we finally get something done with the street and the city in that area, if it turns out there's not enough storage space, then we'll agree to a condition that we'll remove any excess snow storage from the site. I don't think that's unreasonable, although I certainly think if you, being familiar with that area, if you look at the rear of Winebeck Street, as I said, it's a no man's land, and right now, the plows just sort of stop and dump everything in an area back there anyways. Hopefully, we can be working out something better there. So, the sidewalks, I'm told, I'm flipping to the, no, wait a minute, I skipped one. Obviously, the bottom one, the new notification, of course, we're going to meet the code and do notification of the project as necessary. On the sidewalks, we're certainly, I think you've seen the plan has been redrawn to show a sidewalk and a curb, and I'm talking about on Gorham Street now, so that can be a condition. It's on the plan anyways. Let's see. The annual, all the rest of the things that sort of appear like a laundry list of how the engineer expects construction to take place. Of course, those are conditions. We'll meet them. That's the code. That's what we're supposed to do. So whether you want to be in one by one or just say meet the conditions as the outline of the process, construction, entrances marked, et cetera, then those can all be included in a final decision of this board as far as we're concerned. And I already mentioned the last item, which is snow removal. So I and my client, I already spoke too long. Everybody says George Eliades takes too much time going over things, but, I've got to make sure that I cover everything because it's important to you folks. I know that. So my client and I are ready, willing, and able to answer any questions, and obviously I know Aaron probably wants to get his 2 cents worth in too.
Thank you, Council. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of the project? Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes, good evening. I'm Carol McCarthy. I live at 64 Blossom Street. I also chair the Sacred Heart Neighborhood Improvement. As I said before, this is really a win-win situation. I think this business has been in our area for a long time, as long as I can remember. It would be nice to know that we'd have another business interested in going in there rather than seeing an empty building there. I never even knew the street had a name Winebeck, but I do remember years ago, we stood before here even asking the board that the Butler School not be built on this site because it was the only site that we had a park in the neighborhood. And I remember that when the approval of the building was made, we were promised that the city would do their best to help us find an area of land where we could have a neighborhood park. Well, that wasn't to be done because there's no more space in our area to give us parks. So I think the next best thing is to have the business work with the school to keep the neighborhood in there, and I just think it's it's the perfect thing to do with the business. He's looking to improve the area, to improve the building. It's a gateway into the city, and I think it's the best thing to happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing then, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone want to speak in opposition?
Excuse me.
In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the board members. Have any questions, concerns? Any questions?
Yeah, just
Mr. Lockhart?
clarification relative to the snow storage area. Wasn't there a question as to the access to that area and the property, school department, and something
Well, the snow storage area we're showing in the rear of the building
Yeah.
is a questionable area, but it's owned by the city. And that's the area that Mr. Phipps, who's the current owner, would say he was told that he'd have a turnaround area and he would be able to access the rear for snow storage, et cetera. Now, it never made it to maybe it did. I don't even know that, Mr. Lockhart. I just heard that information from Mr. Phipps. But that's part of what, I think I mentioned that at last week's, the last hearing, that obviously we need to seek from the city some sort of license easement or maybe even ownership of that final little portion that ties that together.
All right, so there's still a little work that has to be done.
Right.
Okay, fine. Have we received approval from the fire department here? That was outstanding the last time.
Yeah, we've received word that
We have?
it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. That's really all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other board members? Mr. Genvan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at the last two meetings, I made known that my biggest concern, I think you have a really tight parking lot by virtue of the fact that you have to go for a variance because you're too close to the building. That's obvious, and I think our variances are lenient. So when I see that, I say it's got to be a tight parking lot. And I suggested you investigate ways to alleviate the need for the variance, that you consider one-way driving and angle parking, and that you make sure that you're in compliance with the landscaping ordinance we have with regarding parking areas. As far as I can tell, it looks like your entrance is one-way, but the other entrance is two-way, so I'm not sure what that is all about. And the other ones were not addressed, so I'm just wondering why that is.
I neglected, I'm sorry, Mr. Gendron. First thing, unbeknownst to me at the last hearing, Mr. Patel had actually already come up with a plan dealing with your angle parking that you had mentioned, but it had been deemed not really, and I'm going to show you this, and it's, do we have more of these in here? May I approach, Mr.?
Yes. Sure.
I'm told that when my client discussed this with the city engineer felt that putting them in opposite directions like that would create more of a problem than a better flow, because if you came in from the Winebeck Street side, then it would sort of be running into traffic coming the other way and vice versa, and by being crisscrossed, he didn't feel that it would be.
Of course, it only works if it's a one-way flow.
Right.
If you've got a two-way flow, the angle parking doesn't work.
And apparently, I think they've tried to work it with a one-way angle as well, unsuccessfully, is what I was told. I believe that's the case.
Yeah, I think Aaron can speak to them, if I may.
Yes, put the microphone, please. State your name for record, please. Thank you, sir.
Sure. My name is Anil Patel, 10 Angle Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Respected chairman, respected members, if I may speak in regards to that particular matter, is what I did is immediately next day after our meeting, I drew up this plan to explain, saying this is what we can do, but the parents coming out of school, if they try to come out and take a turn right there for 19 feet or 20 feet right away turn, that will create a problem on the one-way street on the Gorham Street, and all the way they come out to the Gorham Street and get inside. So what we come up with it is a two-way entrance on that side and leave the parking straight. And I asked Aaron to pretty much explain to city engineer, traffic engineer, as well as think through and talk to him, saying this is I'm proposing, and this is how two alternatives we have, which one is the right one to go by, and that's what I did.
So you want to make sure that this Winebeck Street exit is two-way because you want to be able to have people who are leaving the school be able to enter into the parking lot?
Because normally people drop off at the school, there is a parent's gonna come out and then they're going to go to the plaza and at 2 time of the day. So normally you reluctance entrance from the front will cause a right away turnaround, and bigger, longer turnaround will cause more traffic hassle because of those 3 entrance, Manchester Street entrance and Dunkin' Donuts entrance over there will cause some pain over there. That's the only reason I come up with
I
this
understand.
plan.
Did you want to comment, Aaron, on that? Or
I could just follow up with that, and I spoke with Eric Cubese, the transportation engineer. He was the one who made the comments primarily about circulation onto the site, or at least the parking lot. And he did look at the angled parking, and there's also the two-way access from Weinbeck Street. In terms of transportation circulation for the site, the two-way access helps prevent a situation where a parent or, say, someone working at the school comes off the egress onto Weinbeck and would like to go to the business, but if it's only one way, they'd have to pull into Gorham and loop back in that way. So the two-way, although it seems counterintuitive, actually makes for better circulation onto and off that site in case someone wants to make that turning movement. So that's one of the reasons that he was looking at that as a good outcome. And then as far as the angled, the transportation's, you might recall, I think it was the first set of comments, his concern was cars and spaces 1 and 16 on the latest plan. As they're actually backing out into Gorham Street or into the sidewalk. And so that was the primary concern with that. The applicant has provided a greater dimension so that the car can pull out, and at worst case, of course, somebody can pull back as far as they want to, but there's at least enough space for them to pull back and exit without pulling onto the sidewalk. If it was angled, the only way to make that work without them pulling on the sidewalk is they'd have to significantly, probably lose at least 2 spaces, move everything up a little bit, and not gain a whole lot in landscapes. We looked at it a little bit, but this seems to be the best.
okay. What about the landscaping? You know, I think your memo says it's a bit short, Aaron, but it also seems like within the footprint of the parking lot, there's very little happening with regard to landscaping. Is there any plan to change that, or?
If I may, I have added 36 square feet next to the dumpster because there was a size of 30 square foot. So I end up adding a 2 feet over there, and that will actually do a good job from the street point of view because they're not going to see any fence or dumpster area at all. And there is 3 trees, I put it over there. Hopefully that will help to a little bit improve.
So we're talking about the main parking lot itself.
Right.
I mean, you gotta take a parking space and put some landscaping in there. We've been here 3 meetings, and you're complaining to us that it's taking too long. How many times, I mean, to me, take a parking spot out and put in some landscaping, okay? Then you meet the requirement, and we're happy, or I'm happy anyway, so I don't know. Is that reasonable?
No, I think I would ask that we make a condition that they try to work with the landscape people at the DPD to find an accommodation, to find a way to get some landscape into the park, more landscape into the principal parking area. And we'll make our best efforts on that, Mr. Gender. And I think that's the best. Actually, I think that it's easy to get fixated on that, and I don't mean in your case. I'm talking about when I look at that plan, I look at that and I say the parking's there, but if you think about it, there's really a lot more parking up Weinbeck Street too, and if I were pulling in, I'd probably park right off of Weinbeck Street as opposed to fighting with people inside there.
Possibly,
So
yeah.
maybe we can take care of losing a space there. I would certainly encourage my client to
I
do
think
that.
that's what's gonna have to happen. You have to give up a space there in order to meet that requirement. I don't think that's too much to ask. And in the curbing around the site, is that bituminous curb?
Is that the...
Is that granite curb? So,
Yes, bituminous curbing. Around the site, not the city curbing.
okay. It looks like there's a proposed bituminous curb along along Weinbeck Street, bordering Weinbeck Street.
Yeah, I think there is nothing right now, actually, the whole On the Weinberg Street right now, if we look at it, the Gorham 1100 Gorham property and the Weinberg, there is no curb at all. So by me providing a little bit area for landscaping, we are providing a curve on that side.
Could you consider granite curb there?
I'm trying to avoid the cost at this point because I had to bring up the operation.
The bituminous curb, you know, the problem with that is along the city street, it's by the plow, it's just, it just is all over the place. I feel like along the street, I feel as though the granite curb is,
I think it's a requirement as well.
Requirement,
On a city street, it's got to be granite.
Gotta be granite.
It's in the memorandum from the city engineer that we need granite curbing there, not bituminous.
I think that's about 150 feet of curbing. I think we will do that in favor of helping us out in other area. We can certainly put that, but I do have to bring up the business
make a
in
deal.
the ground up, so hopefully you understand that.
so we're gonna look at the landscaping, have a condition to remove a parking spot so that we can meet the requirements of the zoning code with regard to landscaping within the parking lot. We're gonna have granite curbing there, and it's gonna be one-way entrance from Gorham Street.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Genvan. Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Once again, we're here in the third time in a short period of time. And Council, you did come to before us a preliminary review, pre-application hearing, and what you're hearing from Mr. Genron is not the first time that you're hearing it.
I'm well aware of that, Mr. Frischett.
And
And I have no problem with it. I think it's well interested.
so I think be prepared to lose a parking spot as a matter of condition. It's not a matter of working it out. I won't vote for anything other than short of that. I think we, you know, how many times can we ask nicely to work it into the plan?
And we're doing it.
And the granite curbing, again, as Mr. Claremont noted, that is a requirement. And every subdivision that's come through here recently, we make sure we stick to that. It's for the long-term interest of the city.
Absolutely.
So, having said that, you know, we're pleased with a plan to do something with this site. Obviously, the site has some challenges to it, and you know, we're trying to take into consideration, obviously, the applicants, what they're trying to do here, but we also have a greater responsibility as well.
And we appreciate that, yes.
And I did hear you say that you did agree to, at least until something can be worked out with the back spots 49 and 50 to access the snow storage area, that if it was required, you'd have an agreement to remove the snow from the site.
Absolutely.
Sure. I really don't have anything any further. I think those were some of a couple of the outstanding issues, and I think we're going to clear up the landscaping right here and now. That's the way it's going to be, at least from where I sit anyways, and I think Mr. Genron's made his position clear, although I don't pretend to speak for him. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Attorney Claremont?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this being our, I think, third meeting, we've cleared up a lot of issues, and I'm sure some will be cleared by condition. But there was one that I had a concern about in reading the memo from the city engineer dated 2/14, and that's the parking spaces at the end of Weinbeck require an excessive curb cut, which we understand there's no curb cut. It's wide open there for the parking spaces to come in. But she goes on to say this would be denied through the paving driveway permit process. And my concern is, if we approve the plan, is there an issue with the paving driveway permit process that might cause you a problem down the road with a wide open area there? I think that's a relatively new process, the driveway permitting.
Yeah, I probably can address that to some degree, at least in how that process unfolds. So city engineer is the person or the department who issues the paving permits, or in essence, driveway permits. And one of the elements that they looked at in their review is whether or not a driveway or a proposed driveway or repaving of a driveway meets the zoning code. And so this is, in essence, a 100-foot odd curb cut. It's a curb opening, although there's no actual curb there. It's a curb opening. And so it clearly violates the 25-foot max. So what she would do is, in essence, deny it, but say, you need to address this through a variance to the zoning board of appeals. If the zoning board of appeals approves a variance for whatever dimensional element that is not compliant, they go back and she would, from what I've seen, typically would approve it. So she's basically pointing out there that she's not authorized to approve variances.
Right, so even if the plan were to be approved with no curb cut in that area, you may have to get a variance for that.
Right.
Now, your sign plan, that's been submitted for Board of Appeals approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And there was some discussion, too, about the snow storage area not having access to it, because at this point, there's no clear access to the parking spaces that are 4950 in the small area beside it. But you could get to your snow storage area through your parking lot.
Absolutely.
So that's not necessarily
Well,
an issue.
I think so.
Right.
And I only say that because I want to look at it again. Actually, arguably not, Mr. Claremont. If you look at that corner, it looks like, and what that shows is that's the terminus of Weinbeck Street, but it certainly is not the end of our ownership. So you're right, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, he would have the capability, of course, he'd lose a spot or two in the process, but he would have the capability of leaving one or two of his spaces open, actually end up probably having to leave 4 spaces open, to just do a zigzag into the snow, into that area there.
Right.
It's a point well taken, but that's why I really hope we can make a deal with the city, either for a license or an easement or something like that. Makes more sense. Especially, I mean, again, I'm sure you've all been there. It's a no man's land back there. There isn't anything there.
All right, I have no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I see your pictures you gave us this evening. When I was up there yesterday, you couldn't actually see the sidewalk we see now, because early in the year we couldn't see with all the snow. So it's good to see that at least on that side, by the fence, by the pool, there is a sidewalk. Yeah.
It is,
A couple
but
weeks ago, you couldn't see any of that.
But the sad part about it, Mr. Chairman, is it ends at the pool, and then it shows in the picture there's about another 20 yards to Gorham Street, where the kids would have to back out in the street.
Yeah,
Because it hasn't been.
I noticed that by looking at it, like you said, 'cause you could see a lot more yesterday, and
Yeah.
you could, in the previous times.
Oh, it was even worse, yeah, much worse, but at least the sidewalk is clear at that point.
I have no further questions, just the comment on the sidewalks. It was nice to see that at least they're there, but as you're saying, most of it's been plowed onto. Besides that, I think most all the questions I had were either addressed by the city engineer or DPD. Aaron, do you have any other further comments besides what was been discussed so far and what we've gone over on your memo as well?
I've just been reviewing it as we go through the meeting to make sure there was anything that jumped out, but I think it's been pretty much thoroughly reviewed.
But there's one other thing I noticed up there, which, no fault to the applicant, but right in front of Rosenblum's there, that telephone pole that's there now, it's like this. I know. Will that still be there, or is that gonna come out when you open up this area or something? But I couldn't help but looking at it yesterday, I turned around twice, it's like, not up straight, but that's a city telephone pole.
We'd love to have something done, but of course you're dealing
I mean,
with
it's like, right
the
in front
utility.
of Rosenblum's, you look, and it's like 45-degree angle almost. I'm like,
I wish I had $1 for everyone in the city that looked like that too, Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
I mean, this one looked like, whoa, but I know it's not their problem, but I'm just, if I look at the whole site, it really stood out, but. I have no further comments. Any,
Mr. Chairman, if
Sure.
there was one final comment on here, and I don't think, I'm not sure if Attorney Eliades had addressed it, but was, the plans that we have, and the board has, have not been signed or stamped by a PE. So
Oh,
that's-
yeah,
we-
I
we
meant to
get-
mention that. Of course, we wouldn't go anywhere without the signature, and we'll make arrangements for that, yes.
yeah, that was about 15. Okay, no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve with conditions, and I apologize, my sheet's a mess after 3 meetings, but I'll try and run through them, and I did attempt to number them as we went along. I have as a number one condition that the site will be one-way traffic coming in from Gorham Street, and that you'll provide the proper signage and striping to effectuate that, and it'd be two-way off of Winebeck Street. Also to ensure that the handicap spots meet the requirements. There were some comments that perhaps on the plan they do not meet the dimensional requirements, so we'll need to ensure that the spots meet the requirements. Secondly, and that you'll work to provide legal access to the areas on the site identified as parking spaces 49 and 50, and the loading area adjacent to those 2 spots, and the truck turnaround area as well, as condition number 2. As condition number 3, I work with the DPD to finalize the landscape plan, including additional landscaping within the parking lot, which will require removal of a parking spot to make it compliant with the landscaping requirements. 4, I work with the DPD, traffic engineer, and the school concerning the traffic issues. We had a lot of conversation about what's going to happen once this all becomes in effect. So there's some concern that we continue to work with the traffic engineer and the school to mitigate any traffic issues, and perhaps we can just discuss a compliance date maybe 6 months after your occupancy permit is issued. 5, I have no tractor-trailer deliveries. 6, provide granite curbing along Winebeck Street, not bituminous as shown on the plan.
The distance of the parking lot,
I'm sorry?
the up to the end of the
Yes,
parking
yeah,
lot.
and that's all that's shown on the plan, is the
I
curbing
just
up
didn't want to make
up
it
to
sound
the end
like
of
we were
parking
going
spot
the
31.
full length of
Yeah, we understand there'll be no curbing on the back
Correct.
end of that. Yeah.
But it also, it's also along the Gorham Street side as well, right?
Yes, it'd have to be on both street sides.
What's there is already granted, I think. And what we're doing is, just to clarify that, we're putting up our own berm inside of it, adjacent to the sidewalk.
Okay.
But, excuse me, I guess I should say, but filling in, obviously, the curb cuts that currently exist there with granite, obviously, that's what the city requires, and that's what we'll need. I see what, I should clarify that, Mr. Gendron, and that's why I sort of got half right, half wrong on that one, but it's the granite curb, shall we say, were necessary on Gorham Street to complete
Okay.
anything but the cuts.
Okay, I have as number 7, comply with the memorandum of the city engineer dated February 14th, 2011, which I think he indicated he had no problems with. As number 8, that the dumpster would be properly enclosed. And number 9, that the plans be properly signed and stamped. That's all I have.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion on the conditions or anything else? So we have a motion made and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. The matter is approved. Good luck with the matter.
We thank you very much.
Thank you. Best of luck.
We appreciate your assistance along the way at all 3 meetings as well.
you.
Could we just run through those conditions? You know, not verbatim, but just the general essences of each one to make sure I
Kathy, I
have
want
it.
to thank you for coming down 3 times to this matter, too. We appreciate your
Well,
input.
you know,
On behalf of the neighborhood.
May I say something? This lady is a wonderful neighborhood advocate. She took part very much when we had Target, if you recall, and was very much involved with the neighborhood there, and does a great job for her neighborhood. I think
I think she
she,
told us that she even worked at that school there, so she knows the area very well, so we appreciate your input. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
and I should say thank you to Joe and Aaron too, because they put up with a lot of rush phone conversations and did a great job.
That's why they get the big bucks.
I didn't know this was going to be a comedy show.
Yeah.
And also to Wally Cahill, who gets things around circulated well enough too. Thanks.
So you just want to run through those?
Just generally, I don't need them for.
Number 1 was the one-way access.
Okay,
Number 2 was the, provide the legal access to parking spaces 4950, the loading area adjacent, and the truck turnaround.
okay,
Number 3 was working with DPD on the landscaping plan, including additional landscaping within the parking lot, removal of a parking spot to comply with the landscaping requirements. Number
Okay.
4 was working with the DPD, traffic engineer, and the school regarding traffic mitigation issues.
okay,
Number 5 was no tractor-trailer deliveries.
all right,
6 was providing granite curbing along the street sides, not bituminous as shown on the plan.
okay,
7 was comply with the memo of the city engineer dated February 14th, 2011.
all right,
8 was having the dumpster properly enclosed and screened. 9 was having the plans properly signed and stamped.
okay. The only other one I had was, did you mention something about the handicap spots, or was that added on to one of the other conditions?
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed that somewhere, but it was
was
making sure that it was in with number 1.
Okay.
Making sure that the handicap spots meet the requirements.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a special permit on 32 Branch Street. I believe we've been informed that the notices were improper on this, Aaron, right? They have to be continued?
Yeah, that's correct. The letters to abutters didn't get out in the 14-day time period, so.
Okay. So we request they have it put on for the March 21st?
Yeah.
That next
yes,
meeting,
please.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Need a motion?
Yeah, request a motion that if we could continue the Branch Street matter out to March 21st due to the fact that we didn't have the
Make a
proper
motion that
notice.
I'll make a motion that we continue the Branch Street project until March 21st.
One second.
Motion made, second, all in favor of the continuance? Thank you. Okay, moving along on the ZBA, basically we have, first one is for a special permit, which is a sign on 1141 Bridge Street, to construct a freestanding sign. We want to refer that to our design plan in regards to signs. I'll make a motion that we refer that to design planner.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, second, all in favor, say aye.
I'll abstain on that matter.
Okay. 32 Branch Street, we just continued the special permit. I'd request that we continue this matter as well to March 21st.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll also abstain on that matter.
Okay. And the next matter is Gorham Street, which we just approved. I'd make a recommendation that we approve the special permit variances along with the 10-ish conditions we just approved for the site plan.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Moving along, we have Couple of things we've seen tonight from abutting towns. Any questions in regards to those? If not, entertain a motion to place those on file.
So moved.
So move, and do I have a second? Second. Both matters are filed. And the general correspondences, Aaron did give us a handout tonight for us to read, which was, we told last meeting would be coming. And any further discussion from planning and development, Aaron?
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Any further comments from any board meeting members, any meetings or anything that they've been to? None? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.